Hey, my name is Ethan. I'm 31. 3 weeks ago, I was a contractor who kept his head down, fixed rich people's lake houses, and went home alone every night. Then my client, a married woman, 46, beautiful in that tired, elegant way, texted me at 10 p.m. asking if she and her daughter could stay at my place, just for the weekend. I said yes. And for 3 days, my house smelled like her citrus vanilla perfume, late-night coffee, and things I had no right to want. On the second night, standing in my kitchen while her daughter slept 10 feet away, she looked up at me and whispered, "You see me?" And I realized I'd just let the most dangerous thing in the world walk through my front door. If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments. Because I still don't know if what we did was wrong. I stared at my phone for probably 5 full minutes before I sent that text back. It was late Thursday night, almost 10. I was sitting on my porch with cold coffee, watching the lake turn black under the trees, and Caroline Grant's message had just lit up my screen like a flare. "Ethan, I'm so sorry to bother you this late. We had a plumbing disaster at the townhouse, and Nathan is furious, and we have nowhere to go for the weekend, and I know this is completely unprofessional, but—" She didn't finish the sentence. I read it 3 times. Then I typed, "If you need somewhere, my place is open. I want both of you here as long as you need." My stomach dropped the second I hit send. Because Caroline Grant wasn't just a client. She was a 46-year-old married woman with money, taste, and a husband who could ruin my business with one bad word to the right people. I was 31, single, and I'd spent the last 4 months renovating their lake house next door to mine. And maybe spending a little too much time noticing the way she twisted her hair when she was thinking, or how her voice got softer when Nathan wasn't in the room. I told myself it was just kindness. I told myself I was being professional. I was lying to myself even then. She replied 10 minutes later. "Just for the weekend. Me and Lucy. Nathan's sorting other arrangements." Lucy was her daughter. 22. Sharp as hell. I'd met her twice during walkthroughs, and both times she'd looked at me like she was calculating exactly how much I was charging per square foot, and whether I was worth it. I texted back the address and some basic house rules. Noisy dishwasher, steep stairs, Marta next door who sees everything. Then I stood up, walked inside, and started stripping the guest bed. Ryan called while I was folding towels. "You're doing what?" "Letting them crash here for a couple nights," I said, tucking the phone between my ear and shoulder. "Their townhouse flooded. It's not a big deal." "Ethan, she's married, to a lawyer, who just paid you 40 grand. She's also stranded with her daughter and a broken pipe." Ryan was quiet for a second. Then he laughed. "Man, you're gonna do it anyway. Just don't get comfortable, all right? Rich people and contractors don't mix, not like that." "It's not like anything," I said. But I was already pulling out a second pillow, a spare blanket, an extra toothbrush I'd grabbed at the store without really knowing why. When I finally turned off the guest room light, I stood in the doorway for a long time, looking at that carefully made bed. "It's just the weekend," I whispered to the empty room. I didn't believe it. They showed up late Friday morning. I'd been pacing for an hour, straightening couch cushions, moving the same coffee mug from the counter to the table and back again. When the silver SUV finally pulled into my driveway, I opened the front door and stepped out. Caroline got out first. I don't know what I expected. Maybe the version of her I'd seen at the lake house, polished, put together, always in control. But this Caroline was different. Hair loose, no makeup, wearing jeans and a soft sweater that made her look younger and more tired at the same time. "Ethan," she said quietly. "Thank you. We didn't know where else to go." Lucy climbed out behind her, dragging a suitcase. "Mom, you're being dramatic. We could have stayed at a hotel." "Your father already took the hotel," Caroline said. Lucy rolled her eyes. "Of course he did." I grabbed their bags. "Guest room's upstairs. Couch is open if one of you wants it." Lucy looked at the couch, then at her mom. "I'll take the couch. You need actual sleep for once." Something passed between them, a look I couldn't quite read. Then Caroline nodded. "All right, just for the weekend." I carried the bags up, showed them the room, explained where the towels were, how the shower handle stuck a little to the left. Caroline stood in the doorway, fingers brushing the doorframe, and I saw it. Her wedding ring. Gold band. Simple. She was still wearing it. She caught me looking. Didn't say anything. Just tucked her hand into her pocket. That afternoon, I drove to the store for some groceries. When I got back, Caroline was on the phone in the guest room, door half open, her voice tight. Assessed narrative pacing and emotional beats for extended story development. Good start. I'm establishing the voice well, short sentences, reflective tone, sensory details. Need to continue building the tension naturally. Let me keep going with the key moments. The first night, the morning routines, the dock scene, the almost kiss, and building toward the FaceTime incident and their departure. I'm at about 800 words. Need to get to 4,000, so I need to pace this well and make sure I hit all the key emotional beats from the first 12 chapters. "Nathan, I'm not overreacting. Lucy has an exam Monday. She needs quiet. She needs—" A pause. "Fine. Yes, I'll be at the gallery event. Of course I will." Lucy was standing in the hallway when I came, up the stairs. She looked at me, then at her mom's door, and something in her expression was old. Too old for 22. "She always does this," Lucy said quietly. "Apologizes for things that aren't her fault." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. Lucy gave me a small, tired smile. "Thanks for the couch, Ethan. And for not asking questions." That first night was strange. We ordered takeout, sat around my little kitchen table like we were trying on the shape of something normal. Lucy talked about her internship applications. Caroline asked about the lake, my parents' old place, how I'd ended up back here after college. I told them about growing up on this water, how my dad used to fish off the same dock I still used, how I'd bought this house 3 years ago with everything I had, and some days I still couldn't believe it was mine. "It's a good house," Caroline said softly. "You can feel it. That it's loved." The way she said it made my chest hurt a little. After dinner, Lucy disappeared into the guest room with her laptop. Caroline helped me load the dishwasher. We moved around each other in my tiny kitchen, careful not to touch, and I was so aware of her. The citrus vanilla smell of her perfume, the way her sweater sleeve kept slipping down her shoulder, the soft clink of mugs as she set them on the counter. "Ethan," she said quietly. I looked up. "Thank you. For this. I know it's complicated." "It's not complicated," I lied. "You needed help." She smiled, sad and small. "You're kind. Nathan would never—" She stopped, shook her head. "Sorry, that's not fair to say." "You don't have to apologize," I said. We stood there. The dishwasher hummed between us, and for just a second, I thought about reaching for her hand. I didn't. She left the kitchen first. Whispered goodnight. Brushed past me in the narrow hallway, and her shoulder touched mine for half a second. I stayed there in the dark for a long time after, just breathing. Saturday morning, I woke to voices. Soft, low, coming from the kitchen. I pulled on a shirt and walked out to find Caroline at my stove, barefoot, wearing one of my old hoodies over her pajamas. Lucy sat at the table with textbooks spread everywhere, earbuds in, frowning at her laptop. Caroline looked up. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to raid your kitchen. I just thought—" "It's fine," I said. It's fine." She poured me coffee in my usual mug. Somehow she'd already figured out which one I used. She handed it to me, and our fingers touched on the ceramic. Warm. Brief. Lucy glanced up, looked between us, went back to her laptop without a word. We shared breakfast, negotiated the single bathroom. I timed my shower so I wouldn't walk through in just a towel. Little adjustments, little accommodations, the kind of thing people do when they're figuring out how to exist in the same space. Around noon, I told Caroline I needed to check on the lake house. Next door. Make sure the final walkthrough was ready for Monday. "Can I come?" she asked. Lucy stayed behind to study. We walked across the grass together, and Caroline's voice was different out here. Lighter. She told me she remembered me as a kid. "You used to sit on this dock with a tackle box and a sandwich. You looked so serious, like fishing was the most important job in the world." "It was," I said. "Back then." She laughed, and God, it was the first real laugh I'd heard from her. Inside the lake house, Carolyn moved through the rooms slowly, fingers trailing over the walls we'd painted together. Well, that I'd painted while she picked colors and stood too close to check the light. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "I used to imagine holidays here, Lucy's future kids running on this porch. But I don't know if—" She didn't finish. I wanted to ask. I didn't. On the walk back, the wind picked up. Carolyn had a light scarf around her neck, cream with a subtle pattern. I watched it loosen, watched it start to slip. Then the wind took it. It flew toward the water. I reached. Missed. The scarf danced over the dock and disappeared into the lake. "Oh, no," Caroline breathed. "I'm sorry," I said. "I should have." "It's just a scarf." But her voice cracked a little. I pulled off my jacket without thinking, draped it over her shoulders. My hands brushed the sides of her neck. She looked up, and for one long, dangerous second, we just stood there. Her eyes were so tired, so sad, so present. "You were always here, weren't you?" she said quietly. "Even when I didn't see you." "Yeah," I said. "I was." She didn't move away. Neither did I. Then Lucy's voice carried from the house. "Mom? You out there?" And Caroline stepped back. Let my jacket slide a little so the weight of it reminded us both what we were doing. She handed it back. "Thank you." Our fingers touched again. We walked back to the house in silence. That night, it rained. Lucy fell asleep on the couch halfway through a movie, curled under the scratchy wool blanket, head on Caroline's lap. Caroline and I sat on opposite ends, careful, with Lucy between us like a barrier. But the barrier got smaller as the night went on. Our shoulders brushed, her perfume mixed with the smell of popcorn. When Lucy's breathing went deep and even, Caroline looked at me over her daughter's sleeping form, and something in that look made my pulse kick. We moved to the kitchen, made tea, kept our voices low, and we talked about her parents, about mine, about the weight of other people's expectations, about feeling invisible in your own life. "I've been easy to live with for 20 years, Caroline said quietly, fingers wrapped around her mug. I stopped asking for things, stopped needing things, and Nathan, he didn't notice. Or maybe he did. Maybe he was relieved. "You deserve to be seen," I said. She looked at me. "That's the problem. You see me." I didn't know how to answer that. We were standing on opposite sides of the counter. She set her mug down, walked around, stood beside me. Close. Too close. I could feel the heat of her, the smell of citrus and vanilla, the soft sound of her breathing. She looked up at me, I looked down, and I leaned in. Just a fraction. Not touching. Just close enough that if she wanted to, Mom? Lucy's voice from the living room. Sleepy, confused. We jumped apart like we'd been burned. Caroline's hand flew to her hair. I turned to the sink, pretending to rinse mugs, heart slamming in my chest. "I'm here, honey," Caroline called, voice shaking just a little. "Just getting water." She brushed past me in the hallway. Her shoulder touched mine. Deliberate or accident, I didn't know. I stayed in the kitchen a long time after, hands braced on the counter, staring at nothing. Sunday morning, Caroline was at my stove again, wearing my sweatshirt, sleeves pushed up, hair messy from sleep. Lucy was on her phone. I sat down. We had breakfast, and for a moment, just a moment, it felt like something I could get used to. Then Nathan called. Lucy answered on speaker, annoyed. He was sharp, cold, wanted to know where they were, why Caroline ran off, why he had to hear from the plumber that they'd left. Lucy's voice got hard. "We didn't run off. The house was flooded. Mom found us a place." "What place?" Lucy hesitated. Caroline's phone started buzzing. She picked up, voice careful. "Nathan. Hi." I busied myself at the sink, but I can hear every word. He wanted them at some gallery event next week. Wanted Caroline to stop being dramatic. Wanted to know where they were staying, because people are asking. Caroline kept her voice even, controlled. "We're fine. Lucy's studying. I'll see you at the gallery." When she hung up, her hands were shaking. Lucy stood. "He wants a video call, now, both of us." Caroline looked down at the sweatshirt she was wearing. My sweatshirt. Then at the mug on the counter. Her mug, the one she'd been using all weekend. "Okay," she whispered. They set up the phone on a stack of books. Lucy in front, Caroline behind her on the couch. I hovered near the doorway, trying to give them privacy. Nathan's face filled the screen. Crisp shirt, hotel room background. He looked tired and angry in equal measure. He asked about Lucy's exam, about Caroline's schedule. Polite, tight. Then he saw movement. "Is someone there?" Lucy tried to shift the phone. Caroline leaned forward, and Nathan's eyes narrowed. "Where exactly are you, Caroline?" "At Ethan's house," she said quietly. "The contractor. He offered—" "The contractor." Nathan's voice went flat. "You took our daughter to stay with a man we barely know instead of calling me?" "You were the one who—" "I don't care what I did." He leaned closer to the camera. "This looks bad, Caroline. Do you understand that? This looks—" He stopped, because he'd seen the sweatshirt. I watched his face change, watched him recognize it as something she wouldn't own. "I'm coming by tomorrow," he said. "We're going to talk. In person." The call ended. The room was silent. Lucy stood up, grabbed her phone, and walked out without a word. Caroline sat frozen on the couch, staring at the blank screen. "Caroline," I said quietly. She looked up. Her eyes were wet. "Did I cross a line?" she whispered. "Bringing us here?" "No," I said. "You needed help, that's all." But we both knew it wasn't. She stood, walked toward me, and before I could think, she was in my arms, face pressed against my chest, shaking. My hand went to the back of her head automatically, held her there. It wasn't comfort. It was something else. Then the front door opened. Lucy walked in, back from her walk earlier than expected, and froze. She stared at us, at Caroline in my arms, at the way we were holding each other. "Lucy," Caroline started, "you're doing exactly what you warned me about, Mom." Her voice was low, shaking, furious. Caroline pulled away from me like I'd hurt her. Lucy, it's not. I don't want to hear it. Lucy's eyes were bright with tears. We're going home tomorrow, both of us. She walked into the guest room and closed the door. Hard. Caroline looked at me. I'm so sorry. Don't, I said. But she was already walking away. They left Monday morning. I woke to the sound of zippers, muffled voices. I walked out to find suitcases by the door, the guest bed stripped, the couch blanket folded. Caroline was pale. Lucy was silent. They moved around each other carefully, like people trying not to shatter. I made coffee. They barely touched it. At the door, Carolyn tried to hand me money. I refused. She looked like she wanted to say something, maybe everything, but Lucy was already at the car. Thank you, Caroline whispered, for letting us breathe. Anytime, I said. We both knew that wasn't true. She hugged me, quick, distant, nothing like the night before. Then she was gone. I stood on the porch, watching the SUV disappear. Turned back to my empty house. Found Lucy's cardigan on the couch, Caroline's hair tie on the guest room doorknob, 2 mugs in the sink. I folded the cardigan, set it on a chair, left the mugs where they were. The days after were strange. I went to the Grant Lake house for a final walkthrough, saw photos of them, Nathan and Caroline at fancy events, Lucy's graduation, a whole curated life, waiting to be hung on walls they might never live in. Ryan showed up to check on me. He didn't say much, just looked at me and shook his head. You okay? Yeah. You're lying. Yeah. That night, I couldn't sleep. Got up around midnight, wandered into the kitchen, found Caroline's mug in the cabinet, the one she'd used every morning. I took it out, set it on the counter, left it there. Tuesday, Marta caught me taking out trash. Your guests leave? Yeah. Saw lights on late, she said. Casual, curious. Hope everything's all right. Everything's fine. She smiled. Didn't believe me. That evening, Ryan dragged me out for a drink, warned me about getting too close to clients, told me a story about a contractor whose affair with a married woman destroyed his business. I didn't tell him the full truth. I didn't tell him I couldn't stop thinking about Caroline's face pressed against my chest, about how she'd said, "You see me?" About how I was pretty sure I'd just let the most real thing I'd felt in years walk out my door because it was the right thing to do. Thursday, Nathan called. Final payment, final paperwork. Then, there's a small gathering at Caroline's gallery tonight. You should come. Network a little. She wants to thank you properly. I almost said no. I went. The gallery was full of people who looked like they belonged there. I didn't. I spotted Caroline across the room in a black dress, hair up, moving through the crowd like she was performing a role. Nathan stayed close. Lucy found me first. You brought the cardigan? I had, folded in a bag. Thanks. She took it, paused. She's been weird since we left. Quiet. Lucy, I know, I was harsh, but... She looked at her mom across the room. She can't afford to make mistakes like that. Not with Dad. Not with... everything. I nodded. Later, Caroline appeared. Smiled. Professional. Thanked me for the incredible work. We found a quiet hallway near the restrooms. Away from Nathan. I'm sorry about Lucy, she said quietly. Don't be. The house, she whispered. It felt too easy to breathe there. I wanted to tell her she could come back any time, that the guest room was still made up, that I'd left the porch light on every night since she left, just in case. I didn't. Nathan's voice called her name from somewhere nearby. Caroline stepped back. The gallery mask snapped into place. I left a few minutes later, looked back through the window as I walked to my truck. She was watching me go, hand over her heart, just for a second. Then she turned back to her guests. Over the next week, I threw myself into work. New clients, invoices, emails. Lucy texted once. "What's the name of that wall color in the guest room?" I answered. We exchanged a couple of polite messages. She never mentioned the hug. The weekend. The way her mom had fallen apart in my arms. I wrote and deleted 100 texts to Caroline. "How are you holding up? If you ever need air again? I can't stop thinking about..." I never sent any of them. Nathan called one last time. Confirmed payments. Dropped a line that sounded polite and felt like a threat. "Let's keep things strictly professional from here on out, okay?" "Of course," I said. I understood. The door was closed. I put Caroline's mug back in the cabinet, front and center, where I'd see it every morning, where I could pretend I wasn't still waiting for her to come back and use it again. Then one night, 2 weeks after they'd left, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when my phone lit up. 2:07 a.m., unknown number, a photo, Caroline's mug, on a different counter, a sliver of her hand in the corner, and a message, half-typed. "Is the offer still..." I watched the letters disappear, one by one. Backspace, backspace. The message vanished. I sat up, heart pounding, wrote, "Always." Deleted it, wrote, "Are you okay?" Deleted that too. Then I stood, walked to the front door, and turned on the porch light. I left it burning, went back to the couch, sat in the dark with my phone in my hand and the smell of her perfume still faint on the couch cushions, waiting, hoping, knowing she probably wouldn't come, but unable to turn the light off just in case. I woke up on the couch the next morning, phone dead in my hand, sunlight harsh through the windows. The porch light was still on. I flipped it off, embarrassed, and went about my day like a normal person. Shower, coffee, work site with Ryan on a bathroom remodel across town. But I wasn't normal. I checked my phone every 5 minutes. The unknown number never texted again. Ryan asked if I was okay. I lied, said I was fine. That night, I turned the porch light on at exactly 9 p.m., sat in the dark living room, watched the road. Cars passed. None of them stopped. Marta knocked the next afternoon. "Everything all right, honey? Saw your porch light on all night." "Just fell asleep with it on," I said. She gave me that look, the one that said she knew I was lying but wouldn't push. Yet. "Well, you let me know if you need anything." I nodded, closed the door, felt like an idiot. But that night, I turned the light on again anyway. Wednesday afternoon, 3 days after the message, I stopped at the grocery store after work. I was in the produce section, trying to remember if I needed onions, when I heard her voice. Soft, familiar, talking to someone on the phone. I looked up. Caroline was at the end of the aisle, phone tucked between her ear and shoulder, putting apples into a basket. Regular groceries, not the fancy stuff I associated with her gallery events. Just normal things. She saw me the same moment I saw her. We both froze. She said something into the phone. "I'll call you back," and lowered it slowly. For a second, I thought she'd walk away, pretend she hadn't seen me. Instead, she gave a small nod. I walked over. "Hi," I said. "Hi." We stood there like strangers, like people who'd never shared a kitchen at midnight or almost kissed over a dishwasher's hum. "How's everything?" I asked. "Good. Fine. Lucy's doing well. Internship applications are going better than expected." "That's great. How's work?" "Busy. Ryan and I picked up a couple new projects." "That's good." Silence. Her fingers were white-knuckled on the basket handle. Mine were shoved, in my pockets. "I saw you at the market last week," I said quietly. "With Lucy. Didn't want to interrupt." "I saw you too." Another silence, heavier. Things are complicated, she said finally. I'm staying with family for a bit, trying to figure out. She didn't finish. Didn't need to. I nodded. If you ever need. I know, she said quickly. Thank you. The checkout line moved. An older woman pushed a cart between us, breaking the moment. Caroline paid, left quickly. But at the automatic doors, she stopped, turned, looked back at me across the store. Our eyes met. Then she was gone. That Saturday, I helped Ryan with a community project, building shelves at a youth center. Normal work, normal conversation. Ryan asked if the client thing had settled down. Yeah, I said. It's fine. He didn't believe me, but he let it go. On the drive home at dusk, I passed the Grant Lake house. There was a for sale sign leaning against the porch now. Not planted yet, just waiting. I pulled into my driveway, grabbed my tools, and stopped. Caroline's scarf, the one that had blown into the lake, was draped over my porch chair. Clean, neatly folded, still smelling faintly of her perfume and the outside air. No note, no car, no sign of her anywhere. I looked around, scanned the road, the neighboring docks. Nothing. I picked up the scarf, held it, felt the weight of what it meant. She'd been here, to my house, while I was gone, and she'd left the scarf as… What? A goodbye? A thank you? A reminder? I sat down on the porch chair, scarf in my hands, staring out at the lake. Turned the porch light on without thinking. You found your own place to breathe, I whispered to the empty air. I didn't know if I was comforting her or myself. Sunday night, I couldn't sleep. Made 2 mugs of coffee, mine and Caroline's, carried them both out to the porch, set them side by side on the railing. Didn't drink either one. Around 10 p.m., I saw movement across the lake. A figure stepping onto a dock on the far side, too far to see clearly in the dark. But I knew. The way she stood, arms wrapped around herself, looking out at the water. Caroline. We were too far apart to call out, too far for words. But I raised my hand. Just a little. A small wave. She saw it. Paused. Then raised hers back. Tiny. Acknowledgement without commitment. We stood like that for maybe 2 minutes. Just there. Across the water. Separate but not. Then another figure appeared behind her. Younger. Probably Lucy. Caroline turned, gave one last small wave, and walked back inside. I stayed on the porch a while longer. Picked up her mug, took a sip of cold coffee, left the porch light on when I finally went inside. The next week crawled by. Monday, I got an email from the gallery. Professional, formal, signed by Caroline Grant. They needed some back office work done. Shelving, organization, minor renovation. Ryan and I talked about taking the job. You sure? He asked. After everything? It's just work, I said. Tuesday, we had a meeting at the gallery. Me, Ryan, Caroline, and Lucy. Nathan wasn't there. The meeting was stiff, professional. Caroline discussed measurements and timelines. Lucy chimed in about color schemes and aesthetics. I called her Mrs. Grant, until she gently corrected, Caroline is fine. Marta appeared during the meeting. Apparently she volunteered for local gallery events and watched us from across the room with sharp, interested eyes. Later that week, I went back alone to measure the office walls. Caroline appeared, held one end of the measuring tape while I held the other. Our fingers brushed as we stretched it out. Neither of us moved our hand away. I'm trying to figure out what staying married looks like, she said quietly, eyes on the tape measure. When you haven't felt married for a long time. Yeah, I said. I'm trying to figure out what stepping back looks like when everything in me wants to step closer. She looked up at me then. Really looked. We stood there. Tape measure stretched between us, everything unsaid hanging in the narrow office. Then footsteps in the main gallery. We pulled apart. But when she walked past me in the hallway, no one else around, her hand skimmed mine. Light, deliberate. She didn't look back. Neither did I, but I felt that touch for hours. 2 weeks later, the Grant Lake house was officially on the market. I got a call from Nathan asking me to check the security system after a storm knocked out power in the area. He was out of town. Caroline was dealing with other things. I drove over Thursday evening. Let myself in with the key Nathan had given me months ago. The house was dark, empty, almost haunted. I was checking the alarm panel in the kitchen when I heard it. Soft crying. I froze. Found Lucy sitting on the floor of her future bedroom, knees pulled to her chest, staring out the rain-streaked window. "Lucy," I said quietly. She looked up. Eyes red. "I have a key too. Your dad asked me to check the alarm." "Yeah. He asked you because he and Mom had another fight, because he doesn't want to deal with anything that feels like effort." I sat down on the floor a few feet away. Gave her space. "You want to talk about it?" I asked. "Not really." She wiped her eyes. "I came here because this house doesn't lie yet. It's still just potential. It hasn't been filled with years of people pretending to be happy." She looked at me. "That hug I saw. Did you mean it like that?" I didn't lie. "Yeah, I did." "Do you understand what it would do to her if anything happened? What it would do to me?" "I do." "Then why?" "Because she asked for help," I said quietly, "and I couldn't say no." Lucy was quiet for a long time. Then, "She talks about you like you're a calm place to breathe. But she can't live there, Ethan. You know that, right?" "I know." "If she walked away from all of it, from him, would you even want her?" Lucy asked. "Messy divorce, money problems, a daughter who doesn't trust you yet. Would you still want her then?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know. Lucy gave a bitter little smile. "That's what I thought." She stood, pulled her hood up, walked out into the rain without another word. I stayed in the empty house a little while longer, turned off the alarm, locked up, drove home in silence. Sunday morning I tried to text Caroline. "If you ever need the house again." The message didn't send. Either her phone was off, or she'd blocked me, or something in the network just failed. I didn't try again. Instead, I cleaned. Scrubbed the house top to bottom like I could erase the memory of her perfume in the guest room, her voice in the kitchen, her hand brushing mine in every narrow hallway. That afternoon, I cleaned out my truck. Under the passenger seat, I found her scarf. The original one. The one that had blown into the lake. No, not that one. A different one. This one was folded small and tucked into the corner like someone had hidden it on purpose. I unfolded it. A note slipped out. Small. Handwritten. "Thank you for giving us a place to breathe. C." I sat on my front step, scarf in my hands, note in my lap, trying to remember when she could have left it. During the weekend? After? Some moment I'd missed entirely? The ambiguity hurt more than certainty would have. That night, I lay on the couch with the scarf on my chest, breathing in the faint trace of citrus and vanilla. At 2:07 a.m., same time as before, my phone lit up. Unknown number again. A photo. Caroline's mug. Different counter. A sliver of her hand. The same partial message. "Is the offer still..." And then I watched it happen in real time. The letters vanishing, one by one. Backspace, backspace, backspace. Until the message was gone, I typed, "Always," stared at it, deleted it, typed, "Yes," deleted that too. Instead, I stood up, walked to the front door, turned on the porch light, and left it burning. If she wanted to come, the door was open. If she didn't, at least she'd know I was still here. I went back to the couch. closed my eyes, listened to the lake, and waited. She didn't come that night, or the next. But 3 weeks later, middle of a warm evening, summer finally settling over the water, I was on the porch with 2 mugs again, and I saw her. Not at my door, not in my driveway, across the lake, on the same distant dock, standing in the fading light. She saw me. I saw her. We raised our hands at the same time. Small waves. Quiet acknowledgement. Then she turned and walked back toward whatever house she was staying in now, and I turned and walked back into mine. But the next evening, I found myself checking the lake at the same time. She was there again. We waved. It became a thing, this silent routine. Her on her dock, me on mine. Too far for words. Close enough to know we were both still here. Still caught in whatever this was. One Thursday, a month after the unsent message, I got called back to the Grant Lake House for a final walkthrough. Potential buyers were coming over the weekend, and Nathan wanted everything perfect. I showed up at sunset, let myself in, found Caroline standing in the empty living room, arms wrapped around herself, staring at bare walls. "Hi," I said. She turned. "Hi." Nathan said, "I know, I just wanted to see it one more time." We walked through the house together, room by room. She touched the walls lightly, remembered things that never happened here. Holidays, laughter, family. "We're separated," she said finally. "Officially. Nathan and I, we're trying to figure out if we repair it or let it go." "How are you holding up?" "I don't know yet." We ended up in the empty living room again, sunset bleeding through the windows, painting everything gold. "I don't want to be the reason Lucy hates you," I said, "or the reason Nathan can point to and say you broke your family." "I know. But I also can't pretend that weekend meant nothing." "Me neither," she whispered. She stepped closer, rested her forehead against my chest. I hesitated, then wrapped my arms around her, held her. It was the first time since that Sunday morning when Lucy walked in. The first time in a month. I kissed her forehead. Soft, lingering, imbued with everything I couldn't say out loud. Not love, not forever, not leave him for me. Just gratitude, tenderness, acknowledgement. She stepped back, wiped her eyes. "Thank you," she said, "for the weekend, for letting us breathe." Then she turned and walked down the porch steps, got in her car, drove away without looking back. I stood in the empty doorway and watched her taillights disappear. Knew I probably wouldn't see her like this again. Knew it was the right thing. Hated it anyway. 3 weeks later, summer had fully settled over the lake. The Grant house sold. New family, young kids. I saw them moving in one Saturday, and it felt like watching someone else's future replace Caroline's. Ryan and I picked up more work. Business was good, steady. Marta moved on to newer gossip, newer neighbors. I was old news. Lucy sent me an email from her internship in another city. Short, friendly. Thanking me for the guest room that one time and promising to send photos of her new place. She did. A week later, small apartment, bright windows. She looked happy. Caroline moved to an apartment closer to the city. I heard this through Ryan, who'd done work for a mutual acquaintance who'd seen her at some event. We didn't talk, didn't text, didn't accidentally run into each other at grocery stores. But every evening, around 9 p.m., I turned on the porch light. And some evenings, I'd walk down to the dock and look across the water. And she'd be there, on her side, looking back, we'd wave. That was all. Just acknowledgement. Quiet and distant and enough. Tonight I'm sitting on my porch with 2 mugs, mine and hers. I set them side by side on the railing, the way I've done for weeks now. Some kind of ritual I can't seem to break. The porch light is on. Amber glow reflecting off the lake. The guest room upstairs is clean. Bed made. Towels folded. Just in case. Lucy's old cardigan is still draped over the back of the couch. Carolyn's mug is still in the front of my cabinet where I see it every morning. The scarf is folded in my bedside drawer. And yeah, some nights I pull it out, hold it, breathe in what's left of her. Some nights I hear the dishwasher hum and remember her voice in the kitchen, low and tired, telling me she'd been invisible in her own marriage for years. Some nights I stand at the window and watch the road, half hoping for headlights that slow down and turn into my driveway. They never do, but I leave the porch light on anyway, because some people walk into your house for one weekend and never really leave. They take up space in the guest room, the kitchen, the narrow hallway where your shoulders brush in the dark. They leave scarves and hair ties and the faint smell of citrus and vanilla perfume on your pillows. They teach you what it means to see someone, really see them, and to be seen back. Even if it only lasts 3 days, even if it almost destroys you both, even if the ending isn't an ending at all, just an open door, a burning light, and the quiet understanding that some offers don't expire. They only ask to stay for one weekend. But some people move into your house once and never really move out of your life. I pick up her mug, take a sip of cold coffee, leave both mugs on the railing when I go inside, leave the porch light on, leave the door unlocked, just in case she ever needs a place to breathe again, just in case. Would you have let them stay?